Hey, so a big breakthrough came for me lately when, I mean, there's a there's a kind of sense all the time that I'm not responding to things properly. Like, oh, everything is so precious and fleeting. I need to appreciate it. Need to appreciate it. Or, what's being a mother supposed to feel like? What am I supposed to feel like with my kids right now? Or, I shouldn't feel that way about that. That kind of thing. It always feels like there's somebody like on my shoulder watching, judging. There's some authority somewhere who knows how I should behave, you know? Um, maybe it was sort of the God thing from when I was a kid, or my, internal critic and all that other stuff. Culture telling you what's what. So, yeah, lately I just kind of dropped that. It's like, don't think how I'm supposed to feel when I see this tree. What do I actually feel? Maybe it's neutral. Maybe it's anger. Maybe it's sadness. Okay. Um, How do I feel when I'm singing my daughter to sleep? Maybe I feel more impatient than warm. Okay, I'm still there doing it, you know? There's no penalty for thought crimes, right? Maybe there is something I'd kind of rather be doing at that moment, but I'm doing the thing that, uh, doing something to, I'm not sure how to how to put it, is like to be what a little girl needs and wants at bedtime from her parent. There's nothing that says I have to enjoy it. And that pressure to enjoy it is part of what's making it less enjoyable. So it's like if I could take the pressure off, like, oh, I'm kind of bored right now, singing the same song I always sing, laying here when, I have so many interesting things to read or do or listen to, or just get done, the dishes are piled up or whatever. I don't have to feel any particular way, ever. I've always felt like such a defective model of a human who always feels like the wrong way about stuff. And it's like, I feel how I feel. What a concept. Like, I can feel how I feel. Nobody's judging, nobody's watching. I mean, in some kind of cosmic sense or some kind of objective sense, there's no like right way to do this. And so, lately I've been dropping as much as I could any expectation about how I should feel. Um, and it's such a relief. It's like I can feel in a way that's immature. I can feel in a way that's bored. I can feel in a way that's whatever is like improper according to some imagined outside observer. I am not some superhuman, selfless person. I'm not. Some people are. I'm not. And that's okay. I mean, I still, and it's kind of like easing off on that judgment of myself is going to give me so much energy, I feel like, to, because I think so much of my resistance to doing certain things comes from this fear that I'm not going to feel the right way about it, or I'm not, or not only is there the feeling, there's also the resistance, the denial of the feeling, and all of that is just so, it's just extra stuff, you know? I don't need it. I can feel like a punk. I can feel sullen. I can feel, all the things I wasn't allowed to feel as a kid. I can feel them now. And, I feel like a lot of times, trying to cling to this side of the curve of the duality. No, I'm like this, and denying this side, then maybe if you can kind of swing this way and be like, oh, that's not so bad. And then, then we give it eventually, like the duality kind of starts to dissolve and you can find your balance, right? Um, or the universe can find the balance through you. But yeah, I feel like so much of the problem comes from like, no, no, wait, which way was I? Yeah, whatever. I'm over here. I'm the good one. I'm not like that over there. No, 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 no. But it's like if you're not using all that energy to like stay, I keep going the wrong way. I don't know, whatever. Stay in one direction. It's confusing because it's like flipped on the monitor. But if you're not using all your energy to stay on one side, on the good side, then you can just kind of like, no, it's just energies, it's just feelings. I don't have to avoid that. I don't have to pursue that. I don't have to be this or that. Just respond in the given moment. And so, like, yeah, out of this void of zero expectations, seeing what feeling actually arises is, it's fascinating because it feels so effortless. It feels so like like water flowing downhill. And there's a part of me that's like, can you do that? Can you just get away with doing whatever you want and feeling whatever you want? Or like, it feels like, yeah, it feels like I'm getting away with something. It really does. Um, but yeah, apparently anything goes. And as long as you're not putting all this energy into expectations and judgments, then boom, stuff just happens and it's totally fine. Because who's going to say it's not totally fine? Um, and also more and more, it's like there's a fear that I'm like a bad person, and if I'm too authentic, I'm gonna be a big jerk and abandon my family, whatever. But more and more, it's like, okay, take all the expectations away. What do you actually want to do? It seems like what I want to do is be more authentic with my family. What's it gonna look like? It's an ongoing thing because I mean, there's a lot of psychic baggage, but which is none of their fault at all. I'm the source of um, not me, like the causes and conditions that you know formed me into this version of whatever I am. I have some kinks to work out, but so much of it is just like unclench from whatever I think things are supposed to look like. And I've done that a lot in my life. Like, for example, I'm not the world's most prolific housekeeper. I keep things fine, but not up to my mom's standards. She reminds me of that every now and then, but that's okay. Um, I don't care about having like a late model car. I don't wear makeup. I Most of my clothes are like 10 years old or more. I wear shoes until I wear them out. I usually have like two pairs at a time or so that I wear regularly, and a few kind of like nice shoes from 20 years ago that kind of hang around. Um, but yeah, there's still I guess there's emotional stuff where I'm so concerned about how I should feel that I don't check in with how I actually feel. And how I actually feel usually, I mean, maybe it might be, sort of like swinging to the other side for a little while, but then finally some balance can be found when you're just not gripping by your fingernails to some image of how you think things should be. And it makes it so much easier to accept other people, like doing things you don't expect or you don't, or things that trigger you. It's like you can get triggered. You can feel, not do, but feel whatever you want to feel. And kind of get to the end of that and then find balance. And I have much more faith that the balance is not going to be monstrous or, you know, amoral dickhead, right? It's drilled into us in so many ways that we're just fundamentally flawed. And so, God, you can't rely on your own intuition. You can't rely on your own feelings. You can't trust whatever's natural and spontaneous. God forbid. So, yeah, like walking around without a minder lately, um, without second guessing. And here's another fascinating aspect of it is like every way I've ever been has been allowed by the universe. Every spontaneous act, every second guessing my second guessing was allowed. Every neurotic or repressed way that I've behaved has been allowed. Every generous way that I've behaved has been allowed. Every industrious or conscientious way has been allowed. Every slovenly, procrastinating way has been allowed. Um, like the universe let me do all of that. It didn't stop me from whatever arose in a given moment, even if it was, yeah, based on 17 layers of processing that turned it into a nightmare. It didn't stop me from any of that. It was all allowed. And everything's allowed right now, too. I think this is the part where it feels like freedom because, well, it's funny how freedom and unfreedom. Because here's the thing, I knew it, even in my 20s, I knew that I intuitively knew like nothing, I cannot take any credit for my talents or my proclivities. Like my talents, that you're born with certain talents or not, right? Proclivities is what you actually want to do with those talents or nothing with them at all, right? I was born with both of those. The things that I like, I was either conditioned to like or I was born to like, right? And nothing to do with me. It's causes and conditions. It's just stuff happening. And so, like, okay, that's talents, that's proclivities, and then on top of that's the conditioning. So it's like I want to write books, but oh, I can't write books. I better study physics because that's more respectable and I'm good at it, and whatever, you know. Yeah, and it wasn't like I was good at writing emails, writing little stories about my life to people. And people were like, oh, you should write a book, blah blah blah. And I wasn't super seriously thinking about that. It was just more like, I love writing. I want to write. I want something to write about. So I'm going to travel and I'm going to write and I'm going to write emails and it's going to be fun and my friends are going to read them. And um, then pretty soon it's a blog and then turn into a book. What was my point with all that? Talons, proclivities. Yeah, point is like I had that proclivity of writing was sort of repressed and then it came back as just fun. And then it slowly became like, oh, actually, I'm going to write a book. And I did. Um, and then after that, I started writing a novel. And there's all this like, oh, what do I know about writing novels? It's totally different than memoir. And um, I'm not qualified. I'm not trained. So that's like the conditioning on top of the proclivity, right? But, I'm hoping this fall to finally finish that book and see what happens. And the book was written to be fine about not being a big success. The book was written, I mean, the theme of the book is a successful life doesn't necessarily mean fame and fortune. It means living each moment with a balance between, you know, duties and fun exploration, that kind of thing. Because I mean, she ends the book with a contractual obligation that she has to fulfill. Doesn't really want to, but has to. But also sort of, um, and this not likely to make her famous in the way that she would want to be famous, or might not even make her any money. But but by then she's like, I have this wild and precious life. It's like it's really sunk in that she is free and she doesn't have to live up to anything. And I'm I'm always kind of trying to catch up to the books that I write or the things that I write. My first book, like it published 12 years ago, I wrote that one of the biggest threats to peace all over the world is people who are so invested in the stories in their heads that they can't see actual reality. And that's kind of what Awakening is all about in a way, you know? And I'd never heard of Awakening, but I intuited that that's a problem. Alrighty. I was gonna mention something. Yeah, so yesterday morning, I had a dream that I went into some kind of fog, like the visual field kind of fogged over, kind of similar to how it did at the December retreat when my identity unhooked quite a bit. And when that happens, that it's hard not to have a sort of anticipation, like, oh, is something cool gonna happen now? Um, but anyway, the fog kind of cleared, and I was like in outer space, um, with stars, and my consciousness was kind of transported through it, and there was no worries and whatever. Um, but there was still this little sense of like, oh, I hope this is going to be a peak mystical experience. Oh, how long is this going to last? I hope it's a long time. I hope I get a lot of like ease and there's none of that stuff I don't like. Um, and the very fact of that little peanut gallery, I think I'm not allowed to say peanut gallery anymore. Apologies. Um, I mean, I think there's good reasons not to use that term, so I apologize. Um, but the very fact that this little yapper, this little chihuahua was making its noise, uh, and kind of being anxious and expectant totally ruined it, whatever it was, in the dream. And then I've been reading Annie Dillard's Pilgrim at Tinker Creek. Fantastic book, like a modern female Thoreau. um, but yeah, I just read the part where she sort of speeds up the time on Earth and watches, the glaciers come and wax and wane, and the forests rise up and then fall, and like um, everything gets extinct. Like there's a mass extinction event, 99% of everything's dead, and then that kind of starts blooming again. Just like, and then there's like 1 second of humanity, right? And so I sort of woke up from the dream and entered a kind of liminal space, feeling like even our worst instincts are part of nature, just part of that ebb and flow. Our worst acts and our stupidity are no different from early humans hunting megafauna to extinction, or volcanoes or asteroids or gnarly ice ages causing mass extinction events. Like there's nothing to gain, nothing to lose, nothing to worry about. It's just one damn thing after another. And there's a comfort to the idea that um, the universe will go on, life will go on, no matter how stupid we are. Even if the very coolest animals go extinct, there's loads of time for more, and then the Earth's going to be uninhabitable eventually, and then the whole thing turns to a cinder, and maybe they're spacefaring by then, maybe not. Who knows? Um, yeah, here and now, I can't. I can't predict. It's not my job to predict. And I wrote to my friend. I said, I'm almost mad I had that peak mystical experience because it makes being human feel that much more limited, absurd, and humiliating. Like stuffing a whale into a sock. What the fuck? Why do that? Um, but I mean, that's more processing, that's more ego, that's more like, why me? Um, Apparently, it's possible to settle in and enjoy this absurdist shit show of exquisite lunacy and Luna moths. Um, and I feel like I'm hopefully on the road to doing that. Um, and yeah, the solace of the mystical experience is knowing what it's like to see myself, like the little shell containing me somewhere, um, as something truly laughably inconsequential. Like it's this close to being like a bacteria that lives in an ant's gut, right? And so it's really funny how I can take like myself and my path so seriously. Um, and it wasn't like it wasn't sad to see myself as so inconsequential. It was a relief. It was like there's nothing on my shoulders. I don't know about nothing, but I'm a bacteria in an ant's gut, you know? It's like I'm a little parasite on a little rock. I'm like a little lichen. Um, and the exquisite, I don't know, I say perfection. Who decides what's perfect? Who decides how to feel about perfection? I don't know, the feeling I had during the experience was so far beyond, yeah, anything humans can feel. I mean, I was not in this human body. I was not stuck with these human feelings. It was the bliss was, yeah, what I mean, it was bliss is a joke. Bliss is a giggle compared to, I mean, okay, so you take, if bliss is the size of the planet, this was the size of the universe. That's what it felt like, whatever it was. And it was that you can't, there's no human, yeah, these human feelings, this seesaw, this teeter totter, this roller coaster. It's like this little voltage running here, right? Just teeny tiny little voltage, but we're too close to it, so it's like, it feels like these huge waves of joy and sorrow and disgust and whatever else, bliss, despair. But my point in all this, I have a point, is it seems like, as for my life, um, there's just no prescription. There's no, my proclivities, my talents, whatever they are. I mean, and the talents can be developed too. I mean, obviously, I had to work really hard to write my first book and my second book. Um, didn't just flow effortlessly. Some parts did, but you know, but then you got to go back and do the carpentry and all that. But yeah, I feel like I disengaged from some kind of, like, there's what's coming from here, the talents, the proclivities, and then there's like you got to do this, you got to do that, and you should be this and you should be that. I feel like this, if I have any control over anything, it's just like, get rid of that, have trust in this. And that's very easy to say. For some people, maybe it's very easy to do. For me, it's been quite a struggle to get to a point where anything goes, man. Like, anything goes. As far as, take this gift, these talents, these proclivities. I say talent loosely, by the way. I don't mean like I'm great at stuff. I just mean there's stuff that maybe I have a little more. Like, I'm really good at foreign accents. When I speak Arabic, I sound like a native speaker. Um, Even if, I'm not fluent, but what I can say like a native speaker. Russian too. Um, and there's a part of me that's kind of sad that, you know, I I do that for fun. I can like freak out cab drivers and stuff, but uh, it seems like I could have done a lot more with that. But as far as proclivities like that. I don't know, maybe I could have been a spy or something, but I have no interest in being a spy. Like whatever. What can you really do when you're really, really good at foreign accents? I don't know. Um, Diplomat, translator. But none of that really uh, interests me that much, so it's just for fun. Um, but yeah, whatever it is, nobody can tell me. There's nothing except this to tell me what to do with it. And if I have some, or I'm really good at math. Who cares? Doesn't I don't use it. Doesn't matter. Fun though. Another thing that I just do for fun. Um, but that's fine. I can do things for fun. I don't have to do stuff I don't want to do with the fun stuff I can do. Maybe that makes me like a fairly useless human, but who decides what's useless? Who decides what's productive? You know, a lot of productive things um, cause a lot of problems. It's like inventing new weapons or whatever, working on Wall Street. But yeah, I've never felt more free in my life, and I've also never felt more like there is just nothing here. There's nothing I'm deciding. If I decide anything at all, it's just the only thing I can do is let go of things. The rest is comes from some kind of well or spring that is far beyond. I mean, who knows? I can't say anything about it. I don't know anything about it. I just know that moment to moment, there's the spring and there's the crunch, and I'm slowly letting go of the crunch and accepting that the spring is whatever the fuck it is. I'm not trying to modify it based on fears. Because I mean, that's what trust really is. Trust really is, I don't have to manage this. I mean, some checks and balances are probably going to keep going because, like, I do live in a society. I do have to pay taxes. Blah blah blah. It's not like I'm just gonna cartwheel it down the street and that's life. Whatever. You still got to be human. You got to integrate that into what's coming up. But yeah, it's an ongoing dance. But it's not something I need to take super seriously. It's not something where I have to figure it out and fix it. Um, it's really hard to describe this shift. It's really not anything that I would have understood until it started to happen. But Trusting in the universe, trusting yourself, trusting what's arising. And there's no guarantee of anything. Like you can trust and trust and trust and still get run over by a truck. You can trust and trust and trust and get cancer. That's not the point. The point is not, oh, I trust that everything's going to be perfect just the way I want it. No, it's not going to be, it's going to be what it is. And we can trust and accept that, or we can, no, 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 no. I don't like this. I, I object. And it's not easy, especially for people who, as kids, had every right to be disappointed with the way things were, especially the way that they were shamed and lectured and generally told, don't be what you are. Yeah, just doing things, and there's no secondary or tertiary. Why are you doing that? Why are you asking? You know, is that the right thing to do? How am I going to know? Why are you, it's like so much of that is finally attenuating, and it's finally like, and I think it's going to continue to be a little bit weird and rough as I find a new equilibrium, because maybe I'll get some feedback from other humans, and I don't want to be a jerk. And we do have to I'm a mammal and family, so there's going to be some. I don't get to just sit in the corner and uh, do whatever I want all the time. Dishes to do and so on. But hopefully, when I'm doing more things with less of a sense of, all that exhaustion of, ugh, I don't want to do this. Ugh, I shouldn't not want to do this. Ugh, like, don't be lazy. Like, it's just like I do it or I don't. And if people have something to say about it, they can say it. Let me talk about it. Go from there. I don't know. None of this is really capturing at all what I'm trying to capture. But the experience of it is like water flowing downhill. And maybe that gravity, I don't know, what can I say about it? Apparently in a universe where resistance is futile. And the human processing can be like, okay, well, that's slavery. Maybe it is. Maybe birds and bacteria are all just slaves to causes and conditions, and we're the ones who thought we were an exception, and it's just causing more and more problems. The apple of the tree of good and evil, and all that. Maybe if we can kind of swing to the, I don't know what to call it, because it's both freedom and slavery in a way, to have your abilities and proclivities not be under your control. It's freedom because you're doing what you actually want to do. It's slavery because who's who's telling you what you want to do? Where does the want come from, or where does the slide downhill? Who decides what's downhill for you? Just it's just there. Maybe, well, okay, whatever. Stories, speculation doesn't really matter. Um, maybe if the species can wake up and get more to this point where it's like an equilibrium to be found between like enlightenment and everyday life as people who have to interact and compromise because we're not islands. We're not. And a bunch of enlightened people trying to do urban planning or international trade. I mean, it might be a fucking disaster. Maybe that'll be a whole other equilibrium we'll have to, but there's no equilibrium. That's the thing. It's not about equilibrium. It's about the churn. It's about one damn thing after another. It's about the lunatic fringe of anything goes, anything can happen, anything's allowed. It's not about morality, although morality, a human conception of morality based on some innate intuition or some dogma and wish for social control. There's different things morality can mean. That can arise too. And it's beautiful sometimes. Like some of the philosophers really grappling with it. It's beautiful. Mystics throwing it all away. Also beautiful. Yeah, so if anything goes, then within the constraints that society and the physical world, needing of food and shelter and security and all the other stuff. Finding maximum freedom within inevitable constraints. Like I don't want to go to a monastery. Like it could be fun, I'm sure, but it's not really anything I want to do right now. It's not like I'm getting a lot out of being a householder. And there are constraints to being a householder too. And, a tornado could rip the house down, or, plenty of other things could happen. And then, I'm trying to find maximum freedom within whatever next situation I find myself in. But just freedom from second guessing, third guessing, fourth guessing, judging, having some conception of a god or a judge or a, what's the word for, like criteria for what it means to be an acceptable person of my age, of my gender, of my blah blah blah. It feels like more and more freedom. At the same time, it's more and more acknowledged that there's no such thing as freedom. It's all causes and conditions. And somehow that's relaxing. Somehow the unknowable universe being my taskmaster is more satisfying than trying to figure it out, fix it. Is that trust? What's the alternative? No, I don't like this universe. Can I have another one, please? I don't want it. It's like, look, you're like a leaf on a tree. And you have, I mean, that's humans. They're just so profligately scattered out and then reaped. And what's kind of interesting is, like, I can become the wisest person who ever lived. I'm not saying I will, probably won't. But even if I do, even if, I mean, the sort of spiritual superstars, Jesus, the Buddha, and so on, they tried to share their wisdom as best they could, and then they passed on, and then everybody else just has to start over again. And things get worse no matter who pops up their head every now and then and says, hey guys, hey, guess what? Yeah, people are so much more deeply asleep than I wanted to admit. I thought some kind of mass enlightenment was around the corner when I was, in the 90s. Then, of course, the Iraq War was devastating. And so on and so forth, all the way up to a genocide that everyone in the West is enthusiastically supporting. Not everyone. Far too many people who should know better. Should. But yeah, another side effect, I think, is that the more I am able to accept that I have no control don't even exist really. It's just causes and conditions expressing. The better I'm able to see the same for everybody else. I'm very lucky that my causes and conditions express in this way. I mean, yeah, it's been rough a lot, but there was always some kernel of faith that I'm not afraid of the truth. I'll go wherever the truth leads. I'll go as deep into the caves as the universe allows me to. And I think I have a strong proclivity toward wanting to see everyone as human. It just never made sense to me to do anything else. When I would read things that would humanize even the people that I'd been taught to dehumanize, it struck a really resonant chord. I'll give you an example that might seem trivial or embarrassing or whatever. I don't care. The movie Dances with Wolves was the first movie I ever watched that didn't dehumanize Native Americans. And there's a scene where, um, the white main character wakes up and looks over, and there's these two Native American people kind of like making out and making noise or something. And he looks at them, and they look back at him like, "What?" And that scene was the most humanized Native Americans had ever been in my experience. I grew up watching John Wayne movies and shit, or like whatever they were on the TV when my dad or my grandpa was watching. And it struck. It was like, oh, they're they're human just like we are. There's no difference. And then, reading Howard Zinn, learning about slavery, learning about the Holocaust. Humans are humans. It's like, how can that not be the baseline? But to my mom's great credit, she did not raise me to be racist. Nobody tried really to raise me to be racist. It just wasn't a thing, really. When when I would hear it from schoolmates or whatever, it was just like another way of being stupid and obscene. So anyway, point being, I'm lucky. I'm very lucky in the way that I was born. I'm very lucky in what abilities and proclivities express through this locus of apparent being. And there's part of me that rebels against that too. It's like, oh, I'm just supposed to be grateful. Because as a kid, it was like, you should be grateful it's not as bad as when I was a kid. And I was like, but I'm still miserable. Um, and yeah, in this universe and this life and this moment, I still have what feels like suffering in my body that expresses. But I'm starting to accept that too. Like that's totally fine too. It's not a problem. And an inner voice saying it sure feels like a problem sometimes. That's okay too. You can have your say about it. And when things are allowed, they lose so much of their charge. They can just, instead of like, you know, oh God, what a weird universe. And I don't have to feel grateful for it. I don't have to feel love for it. I don't have to feel grateful for my good fortune. I can be sullen, I can be spoiled, I can be demanding, I can be childish. All that can express and find some equilibrium that I don't control. Nobody controls, it just happens when you stop messing with it so much. Apparently, maybe. I'm not trying to feel unity. I'm not trying to feel universal love. I'm not trying to feel any of that. Just feeling whatever's here. If it's not what I want, that's okay. Doesn't matter what I want. There's no I to want. There's just resistance or acceptance. Much of my life, the idea of surrender is just so anathema because it sounds like slavery. It sounds like oppression. What does it feel like? It feels like becoming part of nature. It feels like water flowing downhill. It feels like my only option. It feels terrifying because once you let go of any illusion of control, then anything goes, anything can happen. That was always true, but Now getting into the actual felt sense of that. It's like stepping off a cliff blindfolded. But it also feels like the only option left. Everything else has been exhausted, so see what happens.